To take home the Golden Gloves, you've got to put in the work, and you've got to be tough as nails. Ashley Kalus was driven to achieve. Today, Kalus is still fueled by that same hope, grit, and determination. A mother of 3 school-aged boys and successful business owner who ran testing and vaccination sites across the state. Kalus is the fighter Rhode Island needs right now because it's time for a change. Ashley Kalus for governor.
Good evening, everybody. It's Wednesday evening, so that means I'm welcoming you to another episode of Chaz Calenda, attorney at law, here on the Coalition Talk Radio. I'm your host, Chaz Calenda, an attorney at the law firm of Inman and Torgy in Coventry, and as usual, I'll be hosting tonight's show. As you know, we've been following statewide and national legal and political issues here on the show, and tonight will be no different. On occasion, we also speak with candidates for local and statewide office here in Rhode Island. And tonight, my guest is GOP candidate for governor, Ashley Kalus. Tonight, she will discuss her vision for Rhode Island if she's elected our next governor, along with a short discussion about the issues currently being debated here in our state. Ashley, thank you so much for joining us on the show, and welcome.
Thank you so much for having me.
My pleasure is all mine. I wanted to give you an opportunity to come on here, the Coalition Talk Radio, give a little bit of a background of yourself and talk about your vision for being the next governor of Rhode Island. I've seen a lot of your advertisements. I've heard you speak on plenty of occasions, and heard you describe yourself as a fighter, and you want to be a fighter for the people of Rhode Island. Kind of goes along with the little ad we saw at the beginning here of you with your Golden Gloves background. How did that? Tell us about that. That's an interesting. It's an interesting little segue into how you became a candidate here. Your background in the Golden Gloves.
Yeah, so I guess a lot of politicians say they're fighters. I really am, and won the Golden Gloves in 2001 in Lowell. So how I started is I walked down into a gym in Quincy Farrell's gym and started boxing. Nobody paid attention to me for, I don't know, a few weeks, maybe a month. And I just kept on going back. And eventually I had a coach take me on, and he taught me how to fight. I loved it. It was something I was very passionate about. I'm still passionate about it to this day, but I don't fight anymore. And it's a great sport. I think it's the best sport.
It certainly feeds into your mantra that you're going to be a fighter for the people of Rhode Island. I mean, you've got the background for it. And so, I mean, in your opinion, Ashley, what do you think that you're going to have to fight the hardest should you be elected our next governor?
I think I'm going to have to fight for change. Rhode Island needs an outsider and somebody that's not beholden to anyone else. So in terms of what I'm going to fight for, the first thing I'm going to fight for is education. Education is deeply personal to me. I will be the education governor. I was a terrible student in high school, a failing student, and a Department of Education official took a chance on me, allowed me as a failing student to attend college for high school. And that version of school choice saved my future. The thing is in Rhode Island is that we can make the decision to be first in the nation in education. It's an economic and a civil rights issue. And the way that we do that is we need to look at models that work. We should look to Massachusetts, not just because it's Massachusetts right next door, but because it's the model of a turnaround. And that's what we need a turnaround in education. The way that we do it, what we need to do is we need to have high standards, and we need to pay our teachers more. We need to level the playing field and close gaps. We need to ensure that a quality education is a constitutional right. And we also need to understand that we need to be flexible and that one size is not going to fit all. But education is an issue that I'm deeply, deeply passionate about.
And I can see why. Obviously we've got underperforming schools here in the state of Rhode Island that certainly need some help. I don't know from the state level, from the local level, but we certainly need to do something because our scores are below where they should be, and our students are not proficient in basic education like reading, math, those types of things are being taught.
Reading, writing, arithmetic.
Yeah.
If we talk about how much money we spend in value, 27% of almost a $13 billion budget goes towards education.
Right.
And unfortunately, in Pawtucket, Central Falls, Woonsocket, those areas still have the lowest per pupil expenditure, or some of the lowest in the state. And that means that we're leaving students behind. So we have to do better.
Yeah, we definitely have to do better on that. And I think that being one of your top issues is is an important thing for a lot of people, considering what everything's gone through especially in the last 2 years. As far as the current crop of the Democrat opponents that we may be having here in Rhode Island, you take issue with some of the things that we've seen seen going on in the last year, especially those bonuses that were offered by Governor McKee. What were your thoughts on all that when those came out?
You mean something that resulted in judges having $3,000 bonuses? I mean, I think it was inappropriate. I think that it was not a good use of money or a responsible use of money.
Right. And I think that a lot of people saw that as just kind of playing into the nature of the so-called corruption that we've seen in this state from some of our elected leaders. So, I mean, that kind of touches on a big topic that I hear about when I'm talking to people on not only my law practice, but in my campaign myself, is the issue of this government overreach, particularly with the mandates that gone on during the last 2 years related to COVID. It was one of those situations where a lot of people felt like the state was taking away their livelihoods, forcing them to take medicines that were people didn't want to take. What is your position on that? Because there's been a lot of questions from people about what will our next governor do if this COVID situation does not stop itself.
Right. So I want to be very clear on this. I believe in choice, not mandates. And so, I've been involved in the COVID response at the very beginning, and everybody was doing the best they could. And so as a healthcare provider, we've served multiple communities across many states. And I remember standing with my colleagues in a community where we were at 30% positivity before we had a vaccine, right? And before we knew what it meant for us, if we got COVID, like there was a point in time, it's different now, but there was a point in time where we didn't know what the outcome would be. And so when I'm standing with my healthcare colleagues, 30% positivity with 3 small children, as a mom, I was happy to do it. It was honestly a little bit scary because what would happen to my children? But as a healthcare provider, you're a service provider and you make that sacrifice. So for those healthcare providers that were on the front line, risking their lives at that time, to be okay enough then when there wasn't a vaccine to risk your life, but then in a very short period of time later to then be told you're not good enough, that just doesn't sit well with me. And it shouldn't with other healthcare providers, is that, choice, not mandates, needs to be the way. When we talk about vaccines, when we talk about masks, is that we are at a point in the pandemic where we need to move to an endemic response and we need to focus on personal decisions. And I'll say, if you want to wear a mask, that is fine. If that you assess your personal risk and you make that decision if you want to wear a mask, I have no problem with that. That's a choice.
Yeah. And I think a lot of people wanted to hear what your position was on that. And I think that a lot of people probably were getting information from the mainstream media that was not entirely accurate. There's a shock, right? There's
this idea, and I'll that if you provide a service, so I've been, the last decade, I've worked in the medical profession. I'm an administrator. And so if you provide a medical service, it doesn't mean that I'm forcing others to have that service. I want to provide a medical service that is safe, that is done according to standards, that is done within the law. And so just because I provided COVID tests and then eventually vaccines does not mean, like, it's not mutually exclusive that you provide the service and therefore you must impose that service on everybody else. Those two things don't need to go together. You can provide a service to those who want that service, and the people who want that service deserve an experienced healthcare provider that's trying to provide a safe service. That's what I was doing, and never making anybody have that. As many individuals can understand, is that sometimes you're a policymaker and sometimes you're not. In delivering services, I was not a policymaker.
Right.
And
the mandates didn't come from you. In other words, the mandates were coming from the government of Rhode Island at that time. You were providing a service.
The one thing that came from me is a safe service from an experienced medical provider.
Exactly.
And that policy, if people want to hold people accountable for policies, they should hold the policy holders accountable, not service providers. Any healthcare professional can say that, like, I'm giving you a safe service. But let's go back to the other thing. Now let's talk about me as a policymaker, as a governor. I believe in choice, not mandates. It's that simple.
And that sounds as simple as it is. I mean, that's exactly what people are looking to hear. Do you believe in mandates or do you believe in choice? I think you've answered that question as directly as possible. So for anybody who had any doubts about that, there you have it. I've heard you say it multiple times in the places that you've gone. And I see you go all over the place. And I wanted to ask you, just being a mother, being a wife, being part of the community, with your schedule, how is that working out for you? I mean, it's got to be difficult to run the schedule that you run and then try to meet as many people and explain to them who you are and what you're about in this particular race. How's that working for you?
It's always a challenge being a working mom and having kids. Any working mom can tell you it is not easy. It's tiring. I'm never sure if I have the balance right, but I do the best that I can every single day. I am really lucky to have wonderful kids and a great husband that is incredibly supportive. I just couldn't do it without that. But I love meeting individuals across the state. That's probably my favorite thing about this, is getting to hear individuals, their experiences, their stories. And I think it's important to do that. And it's only possible because I have a supportive family, but working moms always wonder, it's just always that tension. Working dads too, just families. Right. It's hard to do both things. And, but my kids are okay with this. They're very supportive. And they think I'd be a great governor. So that makes it a lot easier. And they want me to win. And so they give me encouragement. So there's not any sort of feeling that I shouldn't go out and do things. They just want me to have won by now and to make the difference that I promised I would make, which I'll do. So
I think that's what most people are looking for, is someone that's going to run on something, have principled stances, and actually do what they say they're going to do. Because that's the biggest complaint I hear about other politicians, that they say anything they have to say to get elected, and then when they get in there, they don't do it. And I think that someone who's going to convince the people that they're actually going to follow through on the promises and the policies that they say they're going to do, and they get into office is a big plus. And I hope for you that you're able to accomplish that. Just one of the questions I have is that if you're elected governor, how would you deal with our General Assembly? Obviously we have a General Assembly that's dominated right now by Democrats, and what would be your strategy for trying to get your policies through the General Assembly?
The issues that I'm talking about are not Democrat issues. They're not Republican issues. Education, the economy, making Rhode Island an affordable place to live, work, and raise a family. Those are not partisan party issues. Those are issues that are about the future of our state. And Democrats and Republicans both love this state deeply. And so I'm a Republican. I have a certain idea of how things should be done, and some people will disagree. Some Democrats will disagree. but because the issues aren't partisan, I go in with hope that I provide an opportunity for change and for compromise and for new ideas. And so I would be willing to work with anyone who's willing to work with me in order to make changes. I'm more about making a difference than making a point. And so, in the Kalus administration, we're going to get hard, big things done. And I am going to need Democrats and Republicans in order to do that. So I will go in with that frame. And I don't think it helps anybody to have somebody, yes, I'm a fighter and I'm going to fight to get this done. But I don't need to be disagreeable, and you don't need to go in and say that everybody is terrible, because there are great people on both sides. And Rhode Island really does need a change.
I couldn't agree more. And it's refreshing to hear somebody who's running actually for an office of governor to say, I'm not in this to be, the partisan politician. I want to take good ideas from people wherever they come from and try to work with them to make this state better. It's something that you don't hear very often. And I think that's a refreshing thing to hear.
I love this state. I want my children to be able to stay in this state. I feel that Republicans love this state. Some Democrats love this state, and we can work together with political will. This is a once in a generation opportunity to change the trajectory of this state. And anyone who wants to do it wants to see the future be better so that our children can stay here, so that they, can start businesses, employ Rhode Islanders, all of these things, and then eventually retire here. Like, why would I not be welcoming to anybody who wants to do that? Now, will I fight to make sure that that happens? Absolutely. But anybody can join me in this movement and in this fight, because it is worth it. This state is worth it. And everybody is welcome to change Rhode Island with me. Let's do it. It's so important.
It really is. And I couldn't agree more with you on that, Ashley. Knowing that we're running short on time, I want to give you the opportunity to tell everybody where they can find you or where they can reach out to you if they have questions about your campaign and or just want to find out more about you.
Sure. So they can go to my website, ashleykalus.com. Also, we're on social media. You could just look up my name, but go to my website and learn more. We have our videos on there, and a bit about what I stand for, a bit more about what I stand for, and then also a bit about me. And then you can always engage with the campaign. I would say, volunteer, get involved. Really, it needs to be more than just myself. We're seeing a huge level of engagement, and I welcome it. Participating in improving the state and improving your community is so important, and this is the year to do it. We can really make a difference. We have funds to invest in our future, and we have, just in terms of where the state is, so we have like all of these opportunities. And if Rhode Islanders want to change, they want an outsider, somebody that's not beholden and only cares about Rhode Island and the future of Rhode Island, that's what they're going to find in me. So go to our website. It's ashleykalus.com. You can learn more and get involved.
Thank you so much, Ashley. And I really appreciate you sharing your thoughts here tonight on the show. We're at the end of our show for tonight, but I hope you'll come back on in the future and as the campaign progresses and talk a little bit more about what we can expect to see from your campaign and expect to see if you're elected our next governor.
Absolutely. I would love to come back on. I look forward to it. I plan to be on many times. Can I invite myself to more times than just one after that?
Already invited.
I just did. So I look forward to joining you many times, and I look forward to seeing you on the campaign trail. I'm sure I'll see you in the next few days.
Absolutely. And then this has been another episode of Chaz Calenda, attorney at law here on the Coalition Radio Network. As I mentioned at the beginning, I'm Chaz Calenda. I'm an attorney at the law firm of Inman and Torgy in Coventry, Rhode Island. I'm also a candidate to be the Rhode Island Attorney General for this year, 2022. You can locate me at Chas, CHAS, the number 4AG.com. If you're interested in learning more about my campaign, you can also reach me at my law firm at Inman and Torgy, 1500 Nooseneck Hill Road in Coventry, Rhode Island, 401-823-9200. I will see you on the next edition of Chaz Calenda, attorney at law, on Wednesday nights here on the Coalition Radio Network. Ashley, thank you again for joining us. And everybody, thank you. Have a great night.